Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive, and welcome back to the third and probably final part of our Take a Look At series for Dungeon Universalis. I think the next video is going to be detailing creating a character or two. One thing that I did forget to show in the last video when we were talking about some of the cardboard stuff is the campaign map here. So it's on a quad fold board, and it has all the places where marked. So like this red flag here, this M1, that is where you're going to start your main quest. And then these different flags and locations are going to show you which are going to depict the locations of the various quests as you travel around. And then with some of these settlements, they're going to show you like what kind of things are available at the settlements. These little circles those depict terrain, and we'll talk about what the terrain means in just a bit. But I did want to show this bit of cardboard off. And then on the back side of this is just a big kind of open sea area, so you can have some naval adventures. And then also I did want to point, I did punch out the standees, and I just wanted to show. So remember how cool I said this little chit tray was? Well, if you put the you can put your character sheets in there, and then that lays just right on top like that. And so I did punch out all of the standees. I have the mediums, the smalls, the larges, and the extra larges. And if you remember last video, we were talking about the stats that I noticed on the back here. So that corresponds with either the card or it's in the bestiary, and then that dictates the size. So for instance, if you look at this hero card here, that's going to denote that the standee is standee number 1, and it's a medium-sized standee. So we've got that there. And so all the standees go from 1 all the way to, what is it? What's the last one here? 147 for the medium-sized ones. And then there are for the large, there are 1 through 19. And then there are also a few of the extra large standees, and also some small ones. So let's go on to the cards here. One thing I did want to point out really quick is one of the reasons why this game was delayed. I said this in the first video, but they discovered some errors on some cards, and it's quite a few. So they send these 2 packs, one of small cards, one of large cards, for which you need to substitute out the cards in the game with this corrected card. I have not done that yet. So as we look through the cards, if you notice some errors in language or something, there's a good chance that that has been fixed. And I will show you an example really quick. So these are the characters that come with minis if you bought the mini expansion. And I believe that these are probably kind of like the main narrative characters that Oscar has created and written about. I did want to show this example here. So Larnak. Now these minis are very nice. I think the detail is excellent. For people who are really into fantasy miniatures, I think you're going to be very happy with the quality of these miniatures. The detail is really nice, and I think they did a really good job at the sculpts. But I did want to show, so we have the original card here and then one of the corrected cards. So on this one, what was corrected, it was a grammatical, so it says, he knows the forest of the trolls like the back of his hand, but he soon realized that the forest and the mountain ridges that where he grew up, well, they just got rid of the that. But he soon realized that the forests and the mountain ridges where he grew up were too small for someone. So they did go back in and correct some grammatical errors. I'm not sure if it's all just grammatical errors or if there are also some gameplay things that they corrected. But I do really appreciate that they were proactive in getting those corrections made. And there are quite a few, so that's a good thing. So these are all the pre-made characters. We have Malus here, and she is a sorcerer. And the main narrative characters also come like with this background card, and also the backside, it details some of their game traits, their special traits for being like the special narrative characters, and some of them also have special objects. So as you can see here, Objeto Especial, obviously I bet you anything that this is corrected in the corrected, they just forgot to translate the Spanish. So special object, Spanish lesson for the day, Objeto Especial. And so then you're going to have your various stats. We've already gone over. So you have like movement, your melee attack, your strength. You have your ranged attack. You have your natural armor. You have agility, your intelligence. This is your mana. I think that's like your courage, your vitality. And then you have your dexterity, I believe, and perception bonuses. You have your fortune tokens, I think they're called in here. And then a little thing for you to keep track of experience. I'm not sure why they put an experience counter on these cards, because no one's going to be writing their experience in there. And then some notes about what they start with, how much gold they start with, their carrying capacity. The first number is the number of all of the things that their character starts with, and the second number is the max. And I believe that that is a total of the strength plus the vitality, I believe, multiplied by 2. And then you also get the starting point value. And all level 1 characters count as 10 points. And then you, as they grow in experience, you're going to be adding to that. And that's going to give you your starting party total to dictate, to help balance the game a little bit. So then we have Kuz here. He is a, what is he? His race, he's an ogre. So an ogre player character, that's kind of cool. We have Larnak here, which we've already looked at, and he is a goblin. So player characters can be monsters. I love this guy, Herbad. That's my kind of character there. A priest, a warrior priest or something, a warrior monk. Wouldn't mind playing him in a game. We have Bosco here, a halfling rogue. And then we have Vlorg here. Vlorg is an orc barbarian. And then we have Shara, two-handed sword there. A knight, she has a bastard sword. Human knight. Then we have our little dwarf here, Borgron. Dwarf runic master. He is a runic 4 random basic spells he starts with. That's cool. A dwarf magic user. I like that. And then we have Terrell, obviously an elf. Yep, a forester, so kind of a ranger. And then finally, for the miniature characters, we have Aki and a catfolk assassin. So that's all the characters that you're going to get if you bought the miniatures, or you get the cards. Sorry, there are also standees for each of those if you want to have an all standee game. And then we also have a huge pile of other characters. So these, I believe, all have standees. This is kind of cool. You get Don Quixote and Sancho Panza. I like that. It's funny that they spelled that phonetically there, but not there. So I would bet you, I'm wondering if that is a correction. I wonder if that was deemed important enough to come up with a correction. Maybe not. Probably not. That wouldn't bother me too much. As I'm sure everybody knows, in Spanish, an X is pronounced like, actually like an A. So Don Quixote, they put a J there instead of the X, but yeah. But I do like that, like the two characters from Cervantes' novel. So these characters also have some backstory, but they don't have miniatures, so I'm not sure what their importance is. This is one of the characters that, when I mentioned that this game does not have a cohesive art style, this is one of the characters, one of the pieces of art that I was thinking of. It just, like, you know, comparing these two depictions of the characters, they look like they're from very different games. It doesn't necessarily take me out of the experience, but it is something to note that some of the art varies quite a bit, and just a few pieces like really stick out. I think like that guy kind of looks like something from Last Airbender, and then next to you know, very traditional fantasy looking. This lady here is a bard. That's kind of cool, and they start with musical instruments. A troll warrior, that's cool. That's a rat folk. And that's another one that kind of stands out. I love that minotaur there. That is awesome. A minotaur gladiator. A little frog guy, Crapley. Ilana. Snorik. Oh, she's pretty cool looking. Dark elf. Yep. Sylvia, ooh, a bird folk, and then you get some blank cards if you want to make some characters on those. So those are the hero cards. Next we're going to look at the campaign cards. So these are considered like campaign danger cards. During the campaign, the dark player, whether it's AI or not, will be using a token on the board at a certain point, and that token is going to be moving towards the heroes as an encroaching danger. And as soon as the heroes and the token occupy the same space, the dark player draws one of these cards and it depicts something bad happening. So it could be empty, you can have a spy, they can get cursed, a wandering sorcerer, an assassin, a bounty hunter, and a thief. So just something to keep the heroes on their toes while you're there on the overworld map. Now this is the deck that one of the decks I am most excited about. This is a huge pile, 112, I think, 120, maybe 110 cards, all depicting random events for traveling and then stuff that happens in the settlements. And these little circles here correspond to the terrain circles I noted on the campaign map. So depending on where you are at, the heroes or the dark player will roll a d6, and if it's that number or higher, or it might be higher, I'm not sure. I think it's 5+, I think it's that number or higher, you will draw a random card from one of these random travel events. And there are so many, just all kinds of stuff that you can find. Caverns, creatures, landslides, privilege information, a spring, increased river flow, bandit attack, enemy spies, an inn. You can find an inn while you're traveling, a special bridge. You can get diseased, traveling minstrel, an incursion, another minstrel, an invitation, animal loyalty. It looks like you can if you have a dog as a pet at no cost, so you can find a stray dog and take it as a pet. That is super cool. Just there are so many of these. Very few are repeated, I believe. Ooh, Deadly Quicksand, Scorpion Attack, Sandworm, an Oasis. And I like that they are attached to a certain terrain, a certain environment, so they have a thematic sense to them. That's pretty cool. And then these are the settlement cards that you will draw in a settlement, and you can find different things like a market, an oracle, an inn, kennel and breeding ground, an alchemist, a pier or a dock, magic school, king's quarters. You can run into guards, blacksmithing, a physician, a tavern, a temple. So as you can see, once we get that random quest generating app, I think it's going to be an app that's planned on June. Once we get that, when we mix that in with these, this game can very much be played like Warhammer Quest. All right, so next up is the race and class deck. So this is what you're going to be using when you're going to be creating your characters. There's all this cardboard dust everywhere from punching out all those tokens. They're very dusty chit sheets. So here we have our classes and our races. They're going to give you your base stats, and they're going to tell you by how much those can be altered while you're creating a class, I believe. So the min is there, his max is 5. I'm sure the smaller creatures have a they're probably more agile. And so here's like so this creature is average size or medium size, and that's small. So the small creatures are slower to move. They have less maximum strength, but they are more agile. The races are going to give you certain skills that you start the game with, and then you will couple that with a class. So there are quite a few races. We got amphibians, dog folk, dark elves, cat folk, goblins, humans, halflings, orcs, rat folk, reptilians, trolls, cyclops, infernals, vampires, tree folk, celestials. So you have lots of different options there as far as the kind of race you want to play. And then as far as your classes here, you're going to have, it's going to dictate what kind of skills you have. It's going to dictate what kind of disadvantages or advantages you have to round out your character. So like I said, you're going to pair those two. So animist, assassins, bards, sorcerers, knights, witch hunters, scouts, warriors, runic masters, wizards, an underworld sorcerer, warrior monk. That'll be, I will probably be creating a warrior monk at some point, necromancer, and a paladin. So I mean, just mixing and matching these to make characters, and then when you get into the whole skill system, we're talking options for days. Speaking of options, here is your spell deck. There are 16 different schools of magic. Each one has 6 different spells. There was one here, like an evil spell that I thought was really cool. Let me find it. Which one was it? Which school was it in? I think it was in the corruption school. Yes, Entrail Blast. So you can choose a friendly character. He will explode and die as soon as he finishes his movement. So you basically turn somebody into a living bomb, and they run, and then their entrails explode, and they do damage to everybody. Now what's really cool is a lot of these cards, when a rule mainly pertains to the human dark player, if there's some ambiguity about the AI, it will denote it by this symbol here, and then this will be how you control this power doing the AI Dark Lords. So there's a few cards that are like that. Again, just the attention to detail just seems absolutely insane in this game. But each one of these cards has, I believe every single one has a different piece of art. And so like I said, man, the the amount of art in this game is a lot. But there's a ton of different spells. I mean, just, yeah. This game, it seems like a really fun game to be a mage. So I might be making maybe a warrior monk and a wizard or something like that. All right, so then next up, we will be taking a look at the mercenary cards. So these are mercenaries that your heroes can hire. NPCs. You have beasts and humanoids. So these are all the different mercenaries you can hire. Each one of them, you know, it comes with their equipment and their skills and all that kind of stuff. And then you also have your pets here. Eagles, horses, crows, familiars, great cats. Yeah, for instance, so this card here, familiar, it's number 1 standee, small. And so if we just go to number 1, small in the box, there it is. Monkey. Maybe my warrior monk will have a monkey. There's the warhound and a dog, a giant rat. One of the characters comes with a giant rat. I think it's yeah, this little goblin dude. He comes with I believe he comes with this giant rat as a pet, as a starting thing. I'm not sure what he can do. So he's small, has sharp senses, and a plague bearer. Nice. All right, so that's the mercenaries, both of the creatures and the humanoids. Next up are the other 2 decks that I am most excited about. Just for random dungeon generation and kind of random encounter type stuff, we have special elements and we have furniture. And so the furniture deck here just details all kinds of things that you might find in a dungeon or a tavern or a church, a temple, a castle. You got barrels, and then it's going to give you your rules for each one. Cupboard, an armory, a library, fireplace. Some of the tiles had fireplaces on them. So let's see, this is, there's a fireplace in this room. Roll a d6 on a result of 2 plus it is lit. Okay, so it could be lit or unlit. That's cool. A kitchen, columns, statues. So maybe that's probably another card that was corrected. Forge, a fountain, an empty room, empty. Torture machines, trapdoors, grates, empty with an irregular surface. So it makes the terrain more difficult. A throne, latrine. Horse-drawn carriage you can come across. That's pretty cool. And then this deck is all like special elements. I love that piece of art. Really cool. And this contains kind of like magical things like shrines, magical circles, crypts, magic mirrors, a special statue, fountains, dangerous mammals, machinery, arcane machinery or something like that, a mine, mysterious mist, teleporting portal, a cliff, a prisoner. And so these are all just like, you know, if you just wanted to make a dungeon and then draw a few number of special encounters and a few number of pieces of furniture to populate your dungeon with some interesting terrain and obstacles, you can do that easily. And then we have here, we have our Darklord, Dark Player cards. The main huge deck of cards here are all the cards that the Dark Player will be playing on the heroes. And you can and will be using these also in the AI controlled game. As far as I know, there is nothing in the box that you don't use when you're playing co-op. So it's not like you're not going to be able to use all of the things that you paid for. And those are in 3 different categories. We have powers. So these are ways to boost the monsters that are on the table or that you're going to bring out. And again, so like this is another example of we have the basic rule when the human is playing the dark player, and then this rule when it's an AI. So you have all these different kinds of powers that the dark player can boost their monsters with. And then we have encounters, so like wandering monsters, an ambush, enemy spotted, special creatures, thieves, reinforcements. And then we have our obstacles, which are like traps and walls and that kind of riddles, alarms. And then these are going to show you where they can be used. So a room, a corridor, on a door, or on a trap. So, you know, if you were the dark player and the heroes opened this trap without, or opened this chest without searching for a trap, you could play this alarm, and then you would get to do whatever it says. This is the perception check that the hero has to pass to find, to see the trap. And then this is the test they have to do to disarm the trap. Magic blast, stakes, pits, more pits, crossfire, poisonous gases, guillotines, flooded areas, firewall, ice wall, stone wall, darkness, complete darkness, reinforced door, distraction, locked doors, portcullis, dropping portcullis, rolling rock, an armored chest, and flares. So all kinds of things for the dark player to surprise the heroes with. And then this is our main bag right here, and he also comes with a mini, and that is Rosbal. And then finally for the dark player, we have some cards that dictate what the different classes of enemies, what they would do to help you control them. You have your leaders, your undead, animals and vermin, large and huge creatures, sorcerers, battle sorcerers, berserkers, melee fighters, range fighter, flying, and then Rosbal has his own card that is going to give his AI. So that is all of the small cards, or the large cards, the poker size cards. Now we're going to go on to the small cards here. First up is treasures and magic objects. So this small deck of treasure, I believe, is what the heroes will draw from when they draw a random treasure or they open up a chest or something like that. And it's going to tell what's inside. So coins, random common objects, empty, coins and a random common, coins and a dagger, random potion, special object, random potion, a random magical object, special object, and a random armor. And then we have our magic objects, of which there are just an absolute ton. And these are all magic objects: smart ropes, amulets, power axes, silver wands. I really like the design on these cards. I think it looks really nice. Dragon shields, an accuracy longbow, a blinding shield, a crow idol, some kind of switchblade, some kind of magic helmet, an agility mace, a power mace, shining staff, bronze gauntlets, an orc detecting short sword, a swift short bow, agility boots, red helm. I mean, oh my gosh. So many magical items to find. Like I said, loot hunters, you will be in heaven with this game. So much loot. Then next we have these are all of our mundane weapons. Shuriken, arquebus, very much like Warhammer Quest, again, mixing in some of the powder weapons. Crossbow. So somebody did point out, and I'm not sure like where this information came from, so take it with a grain of salt, but somebody did point out that Oscar started this game as it was basically started as a huge custom expansion homebrew for Advanced Hero Quest, but then it quickly became its own game. And so that does make sense, given that it's very much like the old world. And the continent that this game takes place on is actually kind of like a hidden continent on Earth. And so that's why a lot of the enemy factions in the bestiaries were nationalities or races from our own Earth. And they have been like, they have escaped, or they have found portals into this, this hidden continent on Earth. And it's almost like it's like this like continent that is stuck in some kind of like weird medieval old world past or something. And then we have our normal objects here. So like there's a musical instrument you can get for a bard, a squeaky bird, some pickaxes, provisions, arrows, antidotes, vigorous mead, a lantern, a squeaky bug, mushrooms, torches, ropes, supreme beer. That sounds really delicious right about now. All right, almost done, guys. I know this one's long. Next, we have our special objects. So this is like potions and stuff. Healing potions, dexterity potions, strength potions, heroic potions, mana potions, magical scrolls, components for magic, +2 to casting spells, can only be used once per spell. That's pretty cool. Poison flask, dragon bile, holy water, string of garlic, and a crucifix. Very specific. All right. Next up, we are at armors and shields. Now, the armors and shields is one area where it doesn't look like there's a ton of options for armor and shields. Quite a few shields and armor. I mean, yeah, it's good. It's good. It's just like this deck is like one of the smallest of the entire game. But looks like there's a good variety. I know there are bonuses to, like, if a character needs to be wearing light armor and they're wearing heavy armor, you will get penalized in how you can move. And then finally, we have our decks of skill cards. So we have exploration and subterfuge skills, combat skills, scholarly and leadership skills, and nature skills. Now, these cards are, what's the word, how to say it? The components are limited in a sense that in this game, these skills, like you can't have, if there's only one acrobat card, then that is the only skill that's available for the player. So if one hero has this acrobat skill, none of the other players can have that acrobat skill. So you don't need to worry about sharing cards. I think that encourages people to build their characters differently. Cautious Trapper. I'm not going to go through all of these, but as you can see, I have no idea what all of these icons are. I haven't read about these yet. Man, that one has a ton of stuff going on. Jesus. So those are all the kind of like your rogue deck, basically. Then you have your fighter deck here. Hatred towards eyes. So you can have a racial hatred. Gives you a plus something to fighting orcs or goblins or greenskins or dark elves or something like that. Halflings, if you hate halflings, maybe. Fantasy racism at its best. And then we have our scholarly and leadership skills. So I'm sure these are like wizards and heroic leaders, that kind of thing. Champion of the gods of good and champion of the gods of evil. Ooh, that's cool. Battle wizards, experienced wizard. And then finally, I believe we have the nature skills. Tracking, probably. That kind of stuff for your druids and rangers and archers and that kind of thing. So yeah, well guys, I think we have successfully looked at everything for Dungeon Universalis. Like I said, Our next video is going to be a look at creating a character or two. So I'll probably create some kind of melee and magic characters to take into my first game. I'm going to take a party of 2 into my first game. So I hope you guys enjoyed this detailed series, taking a look at all of the cool stuff for Dungeon Universalis. And stay tuned for more. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more coverage of this game on the Dungeon Dive. So all right guys, I hope you had a good one. Hope you enjoyed this video, and take it easy. Bye-bye.